We won't know what he's up to. He's not going to change his behaviour.
Recently, the legendary sapphire ring of Princess Diana, a symbol of love and royal memories, suddenly disappeared. However, what shocked everyone even more was not the theft itself, but the name behind the suspicion. It was Queen Camilla's son from her first marriage, Tom Parker Bowles. When King Charles quietly started a secret investigation, the first clues did not point only to a single intruder. Instead, they slowly revealed a wider network involving people very close to him inside the royal family. A bodyguard went missing. Strange messages appeared. And secret meetings between Camilla and her son made the situation look even more suspicious than before. Was this just the impulsive action of a son trying to protect his mother? Or was there a bigger hidden conspiracy being covered up? On a cold morning in April 2026, Buckingham Palace woke up in its usual calm and fresh atmosphere. The steady footsteps of staff, the light smell of coffee coming from the kitchens, and the normal rhythm of royal life continued as always. No one could have imagined that in just a moment, a red alarm would break that peace and start a silent crisis deep inside the palace. The modern security system of the royal treasures vault suddenly began ringing with a loud emergency alarm. The sharp sound echoed through the marble corridors and immediately put the entire security team on high alert. They rushed in with weapons ready and flashlights scanning every dark corner. When the heavy vault door was opened, the air inside felt heavy with shock and fear. Princess Diana's sapphire ring was gone. It was not just an ordinary piece of jewelry. The sapphire, surrounded by 14 sparkling diamonds, had long been linked to Diana's name and life. Many people believed it carried a part of her spirit, as she was one of the most loved figures in British history. Later, Princess Kate Middleton also wore it with great respect and affection. Its protected place inside the royal treasures vault was meant to preserve this legacy from time and damage. But now, the display was empty and cold. The seal had been broken, but there were no signs of forced entry. No broken glass. No extra alarms triggered. Everything had been done too cleanly, too professionally, leaving the head of security frozen for several seconds. "It can't be," he whispered in shock. When the system records were checked, the shock grew even more. The person who had entered the vault was a bodyguard from Queen Camilla's personal protection team. Not a stranger. Not an outside criminal. It was someone trusted by the royal family every day, someone who had stood beside Camilla during many official events. But when King Charles ordered him to be called in, the bodyguard had already disappeared without warning. He had sent a sudden resignation email saying personal reasons, with no explanation and no clear trace left behind. He did not appear on any cameras outside the palace grounds. It was as if he had vanished into the busy streets of London. The news was urgently reported to King Charles III at Clarence House. Charles was sitting at his antique oak desk, holding his usual morning cup of Earl Grey tea. When his close advisor entered with a pale face and explained everything, he slowly placed the teacup down. The soft sound of porcelain hitting the saucer felt very loud in the quiet room. Charles's face changed, his eyes darkened, and his hands clenched into fists until his knuckles turned white. "Diana's ring," he whispered, his voice low and filled with tension and worry. He understood better than anyone the deep meaning of the ring. Not just in money, but as a symbol of a complex part of royal history. He stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the garden full of bright flowers. His voice was firm, but full of concern. "Start an immediate investigation. Keep it completely internal and fully secret. We cannot allow another scandal in the royal family, especially with William preparing for greater responsibilities." He ordered a small team of trusted security officers to begin a secret investigation. Every file, every camera recording, and every digital trace had to be carefully checked. At the same time, he repeated that this must remain as secret as national security. If the information leaked, the consequences for the royal family's reputation would be extremely serious. One by one, everyone left the room. Charles stayed alone. He knew the royal family was at its most sensitive moment. The loss of the sapphire ring was not just the loss of a valuable object. It felt like a clear warning. Someone was challenging power and unity from inside the palace itself. The internal investigation moved quickly and with extreme secrecy under King Charles's direct orders. Not a single detail was allowed to leave the palace. Using camera access data, fingerprints, and security system records, the team quickly tracked the missing bodyguard. Just 2 days later, he was arrested at a modest house in the London suburbs, where he had been hiding while preparing to leave Britain. In the closed interrogation room, the bodyguard was trembling and sweating heavily. He confessed in a broken, stuttering voice. "I only followed instructions sent through text messages from an unknown number," he said. "That person gave me the exact timing, told me how to temporarily disable the cameras, and even told me where to place the ring after taking it. I don't know who they are. I only received a large anonymous bank transfer. I didn't dare refuse. They said my family would face consequences if I didn't obey." Charles listened to the full report in his private office at Clarence's house. His expression darkened, and his hands tightened into fists until his knuckles turned white. He immediately understood this was not the impulsive act of one greedy person. "It was a carefully planned operation with support from inside the royal family," he said to his close advisor, his voice low and filled with deep concern and anger. "We are facing an enemy within our own house." He immediately ordered the team to continue pretending to communicate with the mastermind using the same phone number. They sent fake messages, acting like the frightened bodyguard still needed instructions, hoping the other side would respond or make a mistake. But everything failed. The phone number went completely silent, as if it had never existed. No replies came. No digital trace remained. That evening, during a closed meeting in a small room at Clarence's house, a heavy atmosphere filled the space like thick fog. Charles began to notice Camilla's unusual behavior. Every time the missing sapphire ring was mentioned, she became visibly tense. She avoided direct eye contact with anyone. Her gaze shifted away, and her hands gripped the edge of the table so tightly that the veins on her skin became clearly visible. Her silence was nothing like the strong, confident, and sometimes warm personality she usually showed in public. Charles noticed this strange behavior very clearly. His instincts told him that something was not right, and a quiet but growing suspicion began forming in his mind. He did not say anything to anyone. He did not even give a hint to his closest advisor. Instead, he secretly ordered a small, trusted team to begin watching Camilla's private activities, her personal schedule, phone calls, messages, and any movements outside official royal duties. Everything had to be done with complete secrecy so that she would not notice anything at all. When the meeting ended and everyone left one by one, Charles stayed alone in the room. He looked out of the window at the shining lights of London in the late night. "Camilla, why are you like this?" he whispered, his voice filled with sadness and deep worry. He did not want to believe that the woman who had stood beside him through so many difficult times, and whom he had defended publicly against criticism, could be involved in something like this. But her strange behavior and the early signs of evidence forced him to take action. Charles knew the royal family was going through its most fragile period. Public pressure was still strong. Memories of Diana had not faded, and William was preparing to take on greater responsibilities. At such a moment, even a small internal crack could lead to serious and permanent damage. He stood up, sighed deeply, and made a firm decision to uncover the truth before it was too late. The search for truth had truly begun, and now the first suspicions were pointing directly toward the person closest to him, the one nearest to the throne. But the full conspiracy had actually begun many months earlier, when Tom Parker Bowles's private worries slowly grew beyond his control. For many years, Tom had watched his mother living under the overwhelming shadow of Princess Diana. Even after Camilla became queen and worked hard through charity work, official visits, and a calm public image, he still felt the constant comparisons from the public. Every time his mother appeared, people still spoke about Diana, her bright smile, her kindness, and her tragic story. Tom feared that when King Charles stepped down or passed away and William officially became king, his mother's position would be pushed down even further. She might be remembered only as a queen mother in name, and in history books as the second one. That fear slowly grew over time, turning into a deep anxiety about his mother's future and legacy. Because of that fear, Tom decided he had to take action. He believed that a strong and clear symbol was needed to secure his mother's position before the new reign began. And he chose the sapphire ring, the most famous piece of jewelry connected to Princess Diana's name and legacy. For Tom, taking the ring was not just about stealing a valuable object. It was a way to prove that his mother was the one truly deserving of real power and lasting recognition inside the royal family. The ring, in his mind, would become a shield that would protect her from future political pressure and public change. Tom began planning in a cold, careful, and extremely secret way. He spent weeks studying the vault security system, the bodyguard shift schedules, and how the cameras worked. After that, he secretly contacted the bodyguard from Camilla's personal protection team through anonymous channels, making sure there was no trace leading back to him. Camilla had known about her son's plan from a very early stage. She did not stop it. In fact, she silently supported it in an indirect way. She helped by approving shift changes through her office, which made the vault security weaker at the critical time. Her strong emotional bond with her son, along with her own fear about the future, made her accept this risk, even though she felt inner conflict. One late evening at Tom's private home, mother and son met in a short private meeting. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. Camilla looked at her son and spoke in a low but clear voice filled with anxiety. "Tom, are you sure? This is very dangerous. If we are discovered, everything will collapse. The royal family will never forgive us." Tom looked straight into her eyes. His voice was deep but firm. "Mother deserves full recognition. I don't want you to live forever in Diana's shadow. This is the only way to protect your position before William becomes king. Please trust me." Camilla stayed silent for a long time. She clenched her hands tightly, her eyes moving between fear and acceptance. Finally, she gave a small nod and whispered, "All right, but it must be done very carefully. No traces. I don't want to lose everything." From that moment, the plan officially began. Tom felt both nervous and strangely excited. Every night he checked the plan again and again, afraid that even a small mistake could ruin everything. He was convinced that once the ring was in his hands, it would become a powerful tool to strengthen his mother's influence before the major changes in the royal family. As for Camilla, even though she continued to appear calm and graceful in public, she was constantly uneasy inside. She often lay awake at night, wondering if she had made the right decision. Still, she convinced herself that she was doing it to protect her son and secure her family's position. In the following days, Camilla quietly helped through her office. She indirectly approved the shift changes, making the vault security weaker at the exact moment needed. Tom continued sending final instructions to the bodyguard, reminding him to remove all traces after completion. In one final message before the operation, Tom wrote, "Mother, everything is ready. We will succeed." The conspiracy remained hidden beneath the calm and dignified surface of royal life. Meetings between mother and son became rare and extremely secret. No unnecessary words, no paper trails. Everything happened in complete silence. No one outside knew that the people closest to the throne were quietly digging a deep trap right under the palace, waiting for the moment when everything would shift in the direction they wanted. At the same time, Charles continued the investigation with cold and strict determination. He ordered the internal security team to carefully review every piece of data. Then, one unusual detail appeared like a clear crack in a wall. The vault duty shift had been changed just 2 days before the theft. The approval for this change came directly from Queen Camilla's office. It was not signed by Charles or the head of security, but carried Camilla's official electronic authorization. That evening, Camilla was called in privately to explain. She entered the room trying to stay calm and composed. Charles looked directly at her and spoke in a low but sharp voice. "The duty shift was changed. Your office approved it. How do you explain this?" Camilla frowned slightly. Her voice still sounded calm, but Charles noticed a faint shake at the end. "I have nothing to do with that," she said. "Maybe my secretary approved it to organize staff more efficiently. I wasn't aware of the details. You know, I don't handle security schedules closely." The explanation sounded reasonable, but Charles did not believe it. He had lived beside her long enough to recognize when something was being hidden. Her eyes avoided his for just a second, and her fingers tightened on her dress. Small signs, but enough for him to notice. With growing suspicion, Charles ordered even tighter but still completely secret surveillance on Camilla. The results shocked him. Within 1 week, Camilla had at least 3 secret meetings with her son, Tom Parker Bowles. These meetings were sudden, not on any official schedule, and always held in private places: a small suburban cafe, a private house belonging to friends, and once even in a quiet park in the evening. Each meeting was brief and never recorded in any official record. After every meeting, Camilla returned to the palace looking more anxious or deep in thought than before. Charles sat reviewing the surveillance report, his hands tightening until the papers crumpled. The grainy images showed mother and son speaking in low tones, and at one moment Tom was seen holding his mother's hand in a reassuring way. There was no sound, but their body language said too much. A sharp pain hit Charles's heart. The woman he had chosen to stand beside him on the throne, the woman he had defended against public criticism, now seemed to be on the other side. And Tom, her son, might be the one behind everything. Charles stood up and paced the room. He stopped in front of Princess Diana's portrait on the wall, his expression heavy and conflicted. He understood clearly that he was facing the most serious family crisis of his life. "There is no other way," he said quietly to himself. I have to act." His voice carried both determination and deep sadness. "I cannot let the royal family fall apart because of personal ambition." He ordered preparation for a private meeting with only 3 people: Charles, Camilla, and Tom. No advisors. No secretaries. No witnesses. He would place all the evidence in front of them and force the truth into the open. The investigation had reached a point of no return. Suspicion had now turned into strong evidence. And King Charles III, no matter how painful it was, had to do what a king must do: protect the throne, even from his own family. After learning about the planned private meeting, Camilla realized the danger was now very close. That night, she could not sleep. Anxiety kept her awake until morning. As soon as day broke, she contacted Tom through a private channel known only between them. "We need to erase everything immediately," she said quickly, her voice tense but controlled. "Charles is suspicious. He questioned the shift change in a strange way. If even one trace remains, everything will collapse." Tom stayed silent for a moment, then replied in a calm but firm voice. "I understand. I'll take care of it right away. Don't worry, Mother. We still have time." Right after the call, Tom acted quickly. He cut all contact with the arrested bodyguard. Every anonymous message, transfer record, and instruction was deleted using specialized tools. He also prepared a backup story that the bodyguard had acted alone out of greed, influenced by an unknown external source. Camilla also took action. She personally deleted all recent messages and call logs with Tom. She reduced contact with her son even further to avoid detection. Any future communication would be extremely short and carefully hidden. The sapphire ring was now locked away in a hidden safe inside Tom's suburban home. Only he knew its exact location. Sometimes he would look at it in silence, feeling both satisfaction and fear. He told himself it was a symbol that would protect his mother from future changes in the royal family. Both mother and son believed their plan to shift blame would work. They thought all evidence had been erased and that Charles only had suspicion, not proof. Camilla tried to return to her normal public role, appearing calm and composed in palace duties as if nothing had happened. But whenever she was alone, a deep unease never left her. She knew she was playing an extremely dangerous game. "Everything will be fine," Camilla kept telling herself, but her inner voice was no longer as steady as before. The fear of being discovered by Charles and losing everything grew stronger with each passing day. Tom, on the surface, continued to act confident. He believed he had control over the situation. "Mother deserves to be protected," he thought. "And I will do whatever it takes to make sure that happens." In the hidden corners of the royal family, mother and son tried to erase every trace of their actions. But they did not realize that King Charles already had far more evidence than they expected, and he was preparing for a final and decisive move. The next morning inside Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere felt unusually heavy and tense. King Charles called Camilla and Tom to a private meeting in his personal conference room. There were no secretaries, no advisors, and no witnesses. Only 3 people were present: the king, the queen, and her son. When Camilla and Tom entered, they immediately felt the pressure in the room. On the large wooden table was a thin file folder. Next to it lay the recovered sapphire ring. Charles sat at the head of the table. His expression was strict. His eyes showed both pain and determination. He did not waste time on small talk. As soon as they sat down, he pushed the file toward them and spoke in a low, cold voice. "Everything is clear. The shift change was approved by Camilla's office. The secret meetings between the 2 of you, the anonymous messages, and the bodyguard statement before the evidence was erased." Tom's face went pale. His hands clenched tightly into fists, and sweat formed on his forehead. Camilla sat in silence, her lips pressed together. She avoided eye contact completely. Charles continued, his voice heavy and sharp. "Tom, speak. Why did you do this?" The room fell into a silence that felt endless. Finally, Tom could no longer hold it in. He lowered his head and spoke with a trembling voice, trying to stay firm. "I admit everything. I planned the theft of the sapphire ring. I did it for my mother. I did not want her to be pushed aside when William becomes king. Mother has lived too long in Diana's shadow. I only wanted to protect her position and make sure she is respected in this family." The confession hung in the air like a heavy weight. Charles looked at him with deep disappointment. Then he turned to Camilla. "And you?" he asked quietly. "Do you have anything to say?" Camilla stayed silent. She did not deny anything. She did not explain. She simply sat still, her hands resting in her lap, eyes fixed on the table. That silence said everything. She had known. She had allowed it. And she had chosen her son over stopping it. Charles let out a long, tired breath. His voice became slower, as if each word carried a heavy judgment. We are the royal family. We cannot allow this to destroy everything we have built. I will keep this matter completely secret. The ring will be returned to the vault today. All contact with Tom will be cut off. The bodyguard will be dismissed and strictly warned not to speak. He paused, then looked directly at Camilla. You will temporarily step away from public duties. You will wait for the decision of the Royal Council. I cannot allow this to continue, but I also cannot let it become a public scandal. Tom tried to speak, but Charles raised his hand, stopping him. The meeting ended in silence. When Camilla and Tom left the room, they did not look at each other. There was no goodbye. Charles remained alone, staring out the window at the soft April light falling over the palace gardens. He felt exhausted, but also a strange sense of relief. The crisis had been contained. The ring was recovered. The situation was under control. But he also knew something deeper had been broken. The trust inside the family would not be easy to repair. Camilla was removed from public duties for the time being. Tom was completely cut off from royal activities. The royal family had survived another internal crisis, but the lesson had been clear and painful. Power, ambition, and fear could even shake the strongest walls from within. Charles understood one final truth more than ever. The greatest threats are not always outside the palace. Sometimes, they come from the people closest to the throne. As for the question of Tom's actions, whether they were reckless love for his mother or a carefully planned decision, the answer depends on how one sees it. But one thing was certain, fear and loyalty had both pushed him into a choice that changed everything.